talking about.
My pain is...
Yes, finally back from work at the cracks. Holy shit! What is that? Am I being watched by the FBI? I haven't seen one of them video phones in nary a decade, 2.5 years, apparently. It feels like even longer. I remember those days. The days when I felt comfortable to be in front of a camera. And by that I meant I was anxious as fuck without therapy. Just get therapy, kids.
Well, that was a cranky-wacky intro, that wasn't it? Greetings, curious, concernable visitors, or fellow subscribers. This is Director Brian, and it feels weird to be in front of a camera again, if it wasn't already apparent. I think it was about 2.5 years since the last time I ever did something like this. I believe it was for a live stream when I was just working on Splattenstein Episode 2, and Lord knows where that project has ended up. But yes, your eyes do not deceive you. You're not seeing things. This hair is indeed growing, but I am in fact back onto making GMod animations, and honestly, I couldn't be more excited to do so. Then again, it might be a little weird seeing another announcement like this, given not even over a year ago, I made my announcement that I was returning to GMod after like 6 months of hiatus. Either 6 or 7 months, I'm not entirely sure. Time's a weird thing for me, especially given how busy I've been. And busy I'm going to be for the foreseeable future, for reasons that you'll find out later on. I know that a lot of you guys have been fairly patient for me when it comes down to literally anything, especially a moment like this. But I'm gonna have to ask you to just be a little bit more patient because I know there's a certain something that you're here for. Surprises for later on. Not that there's many to begin with, but haven't I suffered enough already? Welcome to the resolution of 2024. Nearly 3 years, actually no, exactly 3 years, since the last one that I did back in 2021. I say nearly, but it did come out on the 15th of that year, so I have to apologize in advance, not just for the scruffiness, believe me, I know. I'm a fucking caveman. I'm in a little bit of a no thoughts, head empty kind of spot given I just got back from work, but honestly, today's been a rather good day. And I felt if I was going to get in front of a camera to do this, may as well do it while I'm in a good mood. Also, completely off topic, it's been about 10 minutes of recording as of right now, and that just goes to show how unprepared I was to set up this intro sequence when I've set out a script in advance. I can't even words right now. Then again, what else do you expect from me? By the way, message from the future, this is going to be very noticeable throughout the entirety of my time on this screen, but you are going to notice me looking at the camera and my main monitor because I cannot memorize any of this shit in my head at all due to how tired I am after work. That's just the reality of it all. That's just life. And I do apologize if it seems like anything that I say is not as legitimate. Believe me, everything that I wrote down here is from the heart. Trust me. I wouldn't have made a resolution video if it wasn't. But anyway, it's a new year, there's a lot of things to come, and there's a lot that I do have to talk about. Whether it be stuff that I want to get off of my chest, whether it be reflection, or whether it be a few things that I've learned in the past few years that I've been mostly absent. I say mostly absent because there have been other things that I've been working on as well besides the GMod shenanigans. I mean, if you guys hadn't seen from the first announcement of Scarlet Combine, you know that I've been occupied by other things. And starting the year off strong with the last Can 3. None of you saw this coming, did you? You guys liked it. But I figured what better way to get back into the swing of things than with a third entry in a series that has... Is it even appropriate to call it a series at this point? I'd say so at this rate, given there are now 3 of them, plus 1 extra video as well. But given the big reveal that you saw beforehand, in addition to it being a third entry to the last can, I wanted my return to form to be big, and I figured what better way to do that than by doing something fairly special. I actually started a lot of the footage for that video earlier on in 2023, but had absolutely no idea how the hell to end it. That was until recently, by the end of last year, moving into this year, that I figured, well, let's set it up for a big return. I already planned on doing a resolution video. I felt it was best to get myself prepared for that mindset. Start off with the one video that most people have probably come to recognize before. It definitely was a little weird starting off the video earlier on. I didn't have nearly as much enthusiasm as I usually do. I mean, it's no surprise that I'm getting old, but I didn't have a lot of that same energy for many reasons. Again, I have been fairly focused on other projects and being excited for them, but in how and everything added together definitely brought a little bit more emotion in me and gave me more reason to anticipate what was to come in the following year. It's 2024, and I figure the best way to start off this resolution is that it's been a good long while since I gave myself a proper break. In all of the years that I've been making content as a hobby, I have been served a personal, fun, and safe space to not only keep me mentally well and happy, but also to expand my horizons for even greater things. While most of you are probably more accustomed to the GMod shenanigans that take up the majority of my videos, I've always been open to explore new ways to bring my creativity to life. Game development, music composition, and even just storytelling altogether has brought me into a place where I can safely say that I've grown a lot since the days when a Sonic OC and MS Paint was enough to satisfy me. Despite this though, I can't say that it's been all up throughout that time. From the passing of Kitty 0706 completely deflating my energy and passion for GMod in my early years, making heavy mistakes towards close friends, and even just losing interest in a particular subject that pillared what made the initial medium fun for me as of recently. That's not to say that these experiences had ultimately ruined the hobby for me, but it's very clear that with every up, there's always going to be a down. Case in point, exactly 2 years ago, I made the difficult decision to step away from GMod animations indefinitely as I shifted towards a new project that I could call my own, Scarlet Combine. This was done not just as something that you would all get to see in however long it lasted for, but also to allow myself an opportunity to reflect on those methods of creation that I've been so accustomed to, as well as the experiences that came leading to its own indefinite hiatus. And just like with GMod, it's had its fair share of ups and downs, leading up into the eventual release of my most ambitious project to date, Storm Before the Calm. And now, 2 months after its release and the start of my creative break, I'm now ready to reflect on that experience, talk about what I've learned during this break, and finish off by talking about the future as per tradition with the resolution videos of old. Before we begin with that though, we need to go back into the experience that sparked the project in the first place, DA Legacy Goliath's Requiem. At the start of 2021, I uploaded my resolution video of that year, talking and showcasing Splattenstein Episode 2, in addition to all the other projects on my plate at the time. After that video, a few issues arose that ultimately affected my ability to work on anything GMod related. The first was that my PC at the time was starting to hit the fritz, and I knew that it simply wasn't suited for working on projects anymore without stuttering, crashing, or even stumbling into issues with video editors and just basically everything. So I decided it was time for a new desktop PC, and with help from my one and only patron, Foxy McHooves, or Striker Shark Studios as he's now called on YouTube, I was able to make it a reality, and it got me really excited for the future. However, one thing I hadn't taken into consideration when I made this decision was through the sheer number of technical issues of my previous PC, it built an unexpected burnout for working on anything GMod related. While this new desktop should have fixed this sudden predicament, the big problem was that through my options, the most comfortable at the time was an opportunity to return to a medium I hadn't tinkered with in 5 years prior to 2021, game development. That year marked the 5th year anniversary of the original DA legacy, and given how much DA Games and even Will himself has grown since then, I felt it would be fun to re-explore that old passion and give it another go. The moment I started work on Goliath's Requiem, it overshadowed every chance I had to think about what I could have done with GMod, to the point where I was legitimately scared to return to it. At one point when I opened up GMod just to hang out with Mr. McHoops for his birthday, thanks for inviting me by the way, I felt a strange discomfort in my chest that made me want to pull out of the session altogether and run for the hills, and it wasn't even his fault. This was something I subtly touched upon in Goliath's Requiem Interlude Episode 3.
You knew there would be suffering, and in your only chance to end it while facing it head-on, you refused. Like a man seeking shelter from the apocalypse, wanting to face the outside world, but once they realized the danger that beheld them, they cowered in fear and returned to solitude.
That wasn't just a throw-in line that I thought fit the situation at hand, it was a legitimate feeling in my mind that I felt the need to express in some manner, which, given Iris was a project for Will to express his own feelings, I didn't think was that unreasonable. In fact, most of Interlude's subjects in each episode was meant to subtly reflect upon a growing fear I had when it comes to making anything, whereas the game itself was meant more to reflect the idea that there's always going to be someone that understands what another person might be going through, which I did intentionally to reflect my friendship with Will. I've known the guy since 2015, back when I made shitty FNAF fan games, and out of all the people that I contacted to at least provide some criticism or thoughts, Will was the only person that replied and gave me praise for it. It was legitimately heartwarming to know that there was someone out there who actually cared about the passions that I had for making a project of that caliber, and immediately told me the kind of person that he really was, which only continued to stack up through our interactions over the years. It only made sense for me to repay the favor by making something that not only talked about these things, but also through one of his own personal projects. Unfortunately, after the first half of the game released, I got a bit too carried away by throwing promotion after promotion of this project and practically spoiling most of the game's second half, and if that wasn't enough, people started to see its story as something that was better than what Will was building for the source, and neither he nor I were happy with this outcome. By the end of October, I was in a personal kerfuffle. Should I release this project and only add more fuel to the fire? Should I just stop overall in respect of my friend? Well, as most of you know, I went with the former. Not for the reason I just described, but because I know my projects. I don't make them for any malicious intent or to make an already salted wound even more strained. Just like the original DA Legacy, this was something that I made for Will, and I even made it clear on many situations that people not ask him to give it any major attention or even to play it for the channel. I preferred that decision to be up to him. At one point, I even questioned some of the writing for a particular scene in fear that it would cause a negative reaction from him due to his traumas over the years, his experience with Iris working on Dawn of the Matrix and Valentine Renegade, and by extent, the effects of both that and 2020 in general, bringing out one of the worst ruts for his mental health for obvious reasons. It wasn't all bells and whistles for him, and I didn't want to make anything worse, so I rewrote the scene into something a bit tamer in the event he was to reach that point. Since then, he's given me a lot of reassurance that while I was a bit at fault, it wasn't enough to deter our friendship. It was a clear mistake to draw so much attention to something that was made out of passion and love for one of my best friends, and I still regret that. But in that moment, the spark finally came when he told me that if I took those ideas from the game and tried making something original out of it, it could have had a lot of potential. In all that time that I had been working on something for a person who has guided me to become a better creator and person, I had never once considered the possibility of making something for myself that wasn't restricted by something that someone had already made. I had been so used to fan works throughout my entire time on YouTube, especially for other creators I had a lot of respect for. Coming up with something unique isn't exactly easy. But that's when I remembered. I did make something original once. Back in university for my final thesis project, something I could theoretically expand upon with the knowledge I gained working on the game. But where would I even begin? And so began the production of what would become Scarlet Combine, but not without a thought-provoking sacrifice. By late 2021, after I wrapped up Goliath Requiem's final version, I had continued working on Splattenstein Episode 2, and initially, things were going great. I had quite a few scenes laid out, characters structured, both main, side, and background characters, and I had a lot of footage ready. However, the creative process for it, while starting off strong, slowly but surely started dwindling when I began to put more focus into Scarlet Combine, and that's what was so strange to me at the time. I wanted to finish Episode 2 first. Why was I putting more time into something unique and original that could be saved for later when I should be working on animation? It clicked. And that's when the heart-shattering revelation finally hit me. In all my years working on GMod animations, it was always done for the sake of being a hobby. Earlier that year, I was under the impression that I wanted to work on them, but as I'm dug deep in my writing, planning, and early composing for Scarlet Combine, as this thought surfaced in my mind, I began to think about how much my time spent on GMod took a toll on me. I had completely strayed far away from what I had shaped it to be, which was a fun way for me to bring out my creative mind for others to smile, cry, and laugh with. But the only reason why I'd continued to do so for so long was because I did want to work on them. But now, past tense, calm down, it had only then become clear that it took up the majority of my time when the rest of it was either spent at work, watching YouTube videos nonstop, or the few rare instances where I spend time with friends and family. And it didn't help that before I realized this, I wasn't interested in Splatoon anymore. After the whole year that I had just gone through and the promises made for all the other projects on my channel, I knew that whatever I was going to do next, it either wasn't going to sit well with everyone, or it was going to be forced. But if I had stayed quiet like I did before, I feel there would have been many more questions than answers, and I didn't want to keep myself enthusiastic for something when it simply wasn't there. So, on January 16th, 2022, I announced my indefinite departure from the medium, revealed Scarlet Combine, and simply said, let the future behold. And now, it's time to review. Since the start, Scarlet Combine has been a story of reflection and taking action to make things right for the faults we've made towards others and even ourselves. But finding those answers was going to be difficult, a long climb, and given my fondness for projects following an already existing subject that more people know and enjoy me for, the result was that Scarlet Combine would be an existing model that I could base on in the same way that I've treated others in the past. It would just require more time and resources to make it happen. Which, to its credit, didn't turn out as bad as I thought it would be. I've managed some of my own assets, commissioned artists for set pieces and characters, and I've been inspired by multiple sources to continue building the story into something that resonated with me. And it certainly has. The process of every project, big or small, had given me the sense of satisfaction that I usually associate from my work. That was the first thing I learned. I do still care about my work, no matter the medium. See, any kind of growth into a different department is enough for me to realize that it isn't something to knock, no matter how different or simpler it was compared to GMod. But for the longest time, I had always been downplaying the effect my work has on my life. While I certainly enjoyed other people's, enjoyment, it never dawned on me how much it really meant to me. And this leads into another thing I've learned. The more you tell yourself something, no matter how realistic or not they may be, your mind is bound to believe it at some point down the line, which can be both helpful and troublesome. I believed in my abilities before, and I still do to this day. My recent works have shown that no matter how much time I've spent away from a certain medium, I can always hop back in and continue with something new like I never left in the first place. But it's not this particular aspect that made me realize it. In fact, it's a bit worse than that. You like intrusive thoughts? Neither do I, but hey, I've only lived with them for so long that they've had pretty much little to no emotional impact on me because I had an outlet for something. But now that I have full-time work, I have absolutely nothing like that whatsoever, and it's been nothing but pain. Shut up! Sorry, I had to snap myself out of that. That's another thing I've learned. If you have intrusive thoughts, tell them to shut up. Think of scenarios that involve beating the shit out of them and blocking them off while playing songs like F in your head. It's fun, especially on the best days. If you're not able to imagine anything like that, then just gesture the words or write them down in a journal, I guess. It does help the more you try to block out those thoughts. For me, though, it was more scenarios about getting to really sour or bad situations with friends or family. Things I know wouldn't normally happen given how well I try to treat them. Those thoughts want me to be either scared or angry or just straight up upset for literally no reason whatsoever. In order to do that, they lie. And if liars are living in your head rent-free, you have literally every right to evict them out of your head because intrusive thoughts are like Karens. They need to just calm down and speak with the manager, which is you. And you have more power over your head than an intrusive thought, and if they try to tell you otherwise, that's annoying, isn't it? However, I won't lie when I say that some intrusive thoughts do involve my work and feeling like I'm not good enough, which is a perfect way for me to segue into the next thing I learned. It doesn't hurt to downsize your expectations and make something that's easier for you to grasp. I know that given the time and energy, or lack thereof, for anyone with big ambition, it can be difficult to imagine making something smaller or shorter without feeling like lesser is worse. However, when you understand the extent of your skills, it doesn't really matter what the size of the project is like. What matters is that you're not only able to complete it, but you also, ironically, still have remaining energy for other things. Think of it like your grandma, who you care about very much, calls you over to help her out with changing a few light bulbs and maybe doing a bit of cleaning up. Under these circumstances, you've helped her out with quite a bit beforehand for her to rely on you, so you know how capable you really are to take on whatever she throws. If you're asked to take on this task and you went, it seems pretty minimal, don't you think you could do it yourself? You'd kind of feel like a piece of shit at some point, right? Well, believe it or not, this is the mindset that a lot of creators are being put in, where if it's not long enough and not done as soon as possible, then it's not worth doing. However, when it comes down to balancing what kinds of priorities we should be focusing on, we all seem to delve into this point where we put more and more work into our projects, which only continues to burn us out as we go along constantly until the final product is complete. That serotonin that follows feeling weaker and weaker the more we continue to do it this way until it feels like nothing we do is worth it in the end. Apologies if that got deep, but that's just the reality of things. I'm being as perfectly honest as I can be. I'm happy now, but just saying. And at times, I've often felt this way. It sucks big time, but I also don't want to brush off my grandma's request to help, even if it interrupts my work on projects, so let's replay that scenario again. She calls you to ask, and this time you say you'll help, regardless of reluctance or acceptance. Sure, it might take out some of your time and might take a spoon from your cup, but any time spent away from anything that you do is time to reflect. And what's so wrong or annoying about stepping away when you know you'll be able to complete it later on? And this leads into the next thing I've learned, and this is a huge step from where I used to be before: project and time management. Take a look at this spreadsheet. As you can see, this was made for the video that you're currently watching. You can see there are various rows for all the different scenes of the video and columns for all the kinds of work that needed to be done, including synopsis and script writing, getting the VAs ready, scene setup, and so on. It may not seem like much at first and kind of boring, believe me when I say I used to think the same thing. But let's change this around a bit. Now, all the cells are colored gray, indicating that no work is done, except now there's just one row. This should be the first thing that you do when you start any project. Even if you have no idea how far along you're going to go, having a starting ground like this is a great way to add onto it later without writing too many details. Once ideas for other scenes pop up in your head, continue to add rows for them until you have a clear idea of where it's going to end. Now let's say this is good enough. That's a lot of things to do there, isn't it? True, but by the time that you've envisioned most of your ideas, you've probably either written them down or have them in your head, which by that point, you can mark most, if not all, the rows for that task are complete. This far in, and you've already gotten a lot done from the get-go. Again, this may not seem that extraordinary. In fact, I'm pretty sure one of you might be thinking, well, I don't want a to-do list for things I'm having fun with. Then hey, if you work better without one, have at it. I used to be the same way, and it makes me proud to look back onto all of those videos which either relied on the ideas in my noggin or a very basic script, but at the same time, I used up way too much energy because of it, and to rely on your brain for all the background workings of your project will only get you so far, and having some kind of backup of progress is never a bad thing, especially if you have yet to figure out certain segments, but still have a general idea or word to best describe it. It's great, and especially good to include a weekly schedule too, to mark the days that require work and days to just take a back seat and enjoy the other things in life. It's life after all. You're not living it if you're wasting it. Very Very obvious foresight, Brian. Thank you. As you can see, the days that are marked green are the days that I've gotten stuff done. And even Monday for New Year's, I decided to have a shorter day, but I had actually forgotten about that. It only helped that I spent hours on something completely unrelated that led completely nowhere because anxiety and overthinking just go so well together. So I kept it brief and then remembered I could still take a few hours to do a bit of editing, and I still got stuff done. It's little victories like that which can remind you that you're still doing great. Self-care. Do it, bitch. Now, if this is interesting in any way, shape, or form, here's a few spreadsheet apps that you can use for free. There's Microsoft Office Online, which is free to use on a web browser, but if you want the full up-to-date experience, if that matters to you, you'll need to pay a subscription fee. Just don't. Alternatively, if you're more into the Google ecosystem like I am, okay, look, I can explain. Then you can check out Google Sheets, which you can open new files for on Google Drive or directly on mobile devices and even Chromebooks as well. I'm going to get shunned for not just owning one, but two of these things. Hyperfixations may seem friendly, but they are going to drain more than just your wallet. However, if you prefer something that doesn't have as much of the corporate shadiness of the previous two, I recommend to you my spreadsheet program of choice, LibreOffice Calc. It's part of an open source suite of Office programs that I learned about during my endeavor of daily driving Linux. And while I didn't use it as extensively before, their usage on my new laptop has massively improved my productivity, and I honestly prefer using those programs over any other due to their ease of access and use. I'm willing to bet a number of you probably already knew about this. I'm just feeling a bit educational because I never thought I'd need these, yet here I am. Thank you, Will and Ash. You've saved my life. Lastly, and this was especially apparent when I made my brief return to GMod later on in 2022, is that when it comes to updates unlike this, regardless if this dumbass is on screen or not, is that it's never a problem to tell people how you're doing in a quick, brief way that doesn't take as long as 5 to 10 minutes. I say, as this is possibly going to be 15 to 20 minutes. I have no way of knowing. Not everyone needs to know the slightest detail of what's coming or even a status of the brain goblins that took refuge. If anything, the only story you should be telling in that regard is how you evicted them for constantly lying to you. Now, enough of the lessons. I know you all are probably eagerly awaiting the big thing at the end, especially if you're here for the premiere, in which case, hi chat! Oh, wait, what if they're watching this on mobile? Hi, chat! Anyways, big things, big future. We're gonna get there. But first, have you checked out my album, Storm Before the Calm? Sorry. Had some promotion thoughts for a moment. Streaming now on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music, as well as Amazon Music, too. That one just kind of exists, too, doesn't it? Okay, I know. It's probably not what most people are here for, but I do want to take a moment to talk about this project because it does mean a lot to me. While I am proud of myself for it, I still feel very weird about it. What I mean is that during its production, I've spiraled through so many different thoughts and emotions that by the time it was finally completed, the launch felt a bit empty. And it's part of the reason why I'm taking a long break from Scarlet Combine. It's not going anywhere, in the better sense, but 2 years on a project of this caliber, that's a lot. Don't get me wrong, I took my time with this. I made sure to take breaks whenever possible, but all the things that I learned after completing it didn't apply in the process of making it. It made me feel like very little was done, when ironically, it was the complete opposite. It's got lore, it's got things to jam to, and a full story to tell. I know I put so much time into this, but it's like I've forgotten what it felt like. Which, going off script for a moment, is really not that different from how things were with GMod for a while. To kind of lose sight of what you're working on, to lose sight of what it meant to start it from the get-go, it's not a very pleasant feeling, but it also opens your mind to return to something more fresh, or hell, maybe even start something new. And in my defense though, self-care, I'm learning, to put that much focus on anything for that long is bound to cause burnout, which you can understand why I made that brief return. It was fun to make a few quickies with Dusk. She's my bean and I ain't getting rid of her. But I knew it was still going to be a ways away before I made a full return, and I want to think that there's a reason why I'm so excited now, other than, thank God that thing's over. Because I don't want to think like that when it comes down to something I did mostly on my own, and I did enjoy making it. I'm sure that when the time comes again when I need to take another brief step away from GMod, I'll be excited to work on this again, because now the floor is open to possibilities, and I've had a lot before Storm Before the Calm ended up as an album. It needed to develop first, as all stories do, and for that, it was a refreshing experience. With that said, I know this isn't as akin to an Inkling indefinitely turned into a squid, or some dumbass getting angry over a can of Monster being stolen, but if you want to see the experience that preceded this return, it would mean a lot to me if you checked out Scarlet Combine. You can find all the story and lore pieces on the Unusually Unearthed Productions YouTube channel, and Storm Before the Calm you can find on most streaming services, as well as right here on my channel. All links will be in the description, or this card thingy. God, this is so weird. Remember when annotations were a thing?
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
Alright. You've been waiting long enough, and now it's time to talk about what's in store for the future, which I know for most people, more talking equals them leaving, so let's get on with it. Thankfully, though, this will be rather brief because as of right now, I am not ready for any more promises to bigger projects besides the one that's already been committed to, and yes, there is one. Stay tuned till the end. That's not to say there aren't plans for other things, but they're not exactly far past the concept stages, and if there are scripts for any of them, I think it'd be best if they're left on a need-to-know basis. I can't let my trigger happiness go unchecked. The last time that happened, they got scrapped. So for now, I'm going to stick with the basics. Short videos are coming back. I've been doing some brainstorming for videos involving most of the regulars and spread out across last year. I was doing some small stuff that was yet to be finished, so keep your eyes peeled. Also, weekly or bi-weekly uploads, not happening again. It is going to be strictly when I feel like doing it, just like how it used to be. Videos could come out possibly once a month, maybe 2 of them up for it, or maybe I might just take it easy and relax because hey, I have a life after all, and full-time work is draining. I warned y'all when I started university, and yet, of the folks that caught up lately, it makes me happy to know how much patience there's been, and I can't thank you enough for that. It's a weight I'll happily toss outside the door. It wasn't still changing me for the fear of things going wrong regardless. Anxiety's a bitch and I hate it, but hey, that's what therapy's for. It helps. I really want to get back into the swing of things, and while big things would be lovely, if I have to take 2 more years dedicated to one singular project and not be spread out, you'll never see me again. Which is why I'm going back to my roots. Speaking of seeing me again, for some of you who've actually caught up with me outside YouTube, you may have noticed a distinct lack of my presence on a particular hell site. Basically put, I'm not on Twitter anymore, because it died the moment that bird was ripped of its innards and reshaped into an X with a black sky, which perfectly describes the state it's in. Anywho, if any of you folks are interested in keeping up to speed with me or any of my works, you can find me on Tumblr now, because goddammit, Midian needs somewhere to live. It's actually gotten a bit better since I was last on, but knowing Tumblr, there's probably something worth complaining about. Nothing against anyone there, in fact, keep it up. But yeah, on there you can find updates on how things are going, a few teasers here and there, and even a few video posts that'll have you wondering what the fuck is a vanillo? Assuming you're watching this on YouTube anyway, for the premiere's sake, it's probably the only place you're watching this right now. Otherwise, hi Aaron, can we get premiere soon? Also, can I get verified, please? Doing the best I can to throw a promo without actually promoting my page there. I don't know how YouTube handles that, and I'm not about to fuck around with that. The less I find out, the better. Anyway, I think I flapped my lips on for long enough now, don't you think? I know, I've made a mention of a promise earlier on, and this is one that's been an idea to come since the end of 2020, and in the pre-production phase for nearly a year now. I've been gathering a lot of familiar voices, spent hours jotting down the synopsis for this entire thing and the script for its first phase, and preparing for the day that I would start production. Before you even ask, I'm going to say what Div whispered to the fan near the end of The Last Can 3. Yes, it's happening. And if you've been paying any attention during that entire video, I think you may know what it is. With that said, thank you all so much for sticking around after all this time. I've missed you all so much, and I can't wait for this new adventure. This has been Director Brian, signing off on the resolution of 2024. And I'll see you all next time. Farewell, and enjoy.
So many good memories. Did I ever tell you her name?